What happens when one of the most beloved morning hosts in Britain faces off against royal entitlement live on air? It only took one shocking comment about her career for Prince Harry to be escorted off the Lorraine Kelly show in what became the most explosive 37 seconds in daytime television history. The morning started like any other. Lorraine Kelly sat in her signature chair, her warm smile greeting millions of viewers across the United Kingdom. The studio lights gleamed off the polished desk. Camera operators moved into position. This was supposed to be a friendly chat, the kind Lorraine had mastered over decades of broadcasting. But within minutes, the atmosphere would shatter completely. Prince Harry walked onto the set with an air that immediately caught the attention of everyone in the studio. There was something different about his demeanor. Something off. Lorraine stood to greet him, extending her hand with genuine warmth. "Welcome, welcome," Lorraine said brightly. "It is so lovely to have you here today." Harry shook her hand, but his grip was brief, almost dismissive. He settled into the guest chair and glanced around the studio with what can only be described as thinly veiled disinterest. "Thank you for having me," he said flatly. Lorraine, ever the professional, pressed forward. She had interviewed countless celebrities, politicians, and, yes, even royals. She knew how to navigate difficult guests. She knew how to bring warmth out of the coldest personality. But this morning would test every skill she had developed over her remarkable career. "So," Lorraine began, her eyes sparkling with genuine curiosity, "you have been involved in so many important causes lately. Tell us what has been inspiring you most recently." Harry shifted in his seat. He looked directly at the camera rather than at Lorraine, as if she were merely an obstacle between him and the audience. "Well, Lorraine, I think what people do not understand is the weight of responsibility that comes with my position," he said. "Not everyone can comprehend what it is like to carry the burden I carry every single day." Lorraine nodded encouragingly, trying to steer the conversation towards something more relatable for her viewers. "I am sure many of our viewers can relate to feeling pressure in their own lives, even if the circumstances are different. What advice would you give to someone struggling with their own challenges?" Harry let out a small laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Lorraine, I do not think you understand. The struggles of ordinary people and my struggles are not remotely comparable. When I wake up in the morning, I am thinking about global issues, about legacy, about history. Most people are just worried about, I do not know, what to have for breakfast." The studio went quiet. Producers behind the cameras exchanged glances. Lorraine's smile tightened just slightly, but she maintained her composure. This was live television. Millions were watching. She had handled worse. "Well," Lorraine said carefully, "I think many people are dealing with quite serious concerns, actually. Jobs, health, family. These are real struggles." Harry waved his hand dismissively. Sure. But it is all relative, is it not? I mean, let us be honest here. Your viewers, lovely as I am sure they are not exactly changing the world, are they?" The tension in the room became palpable. Crew members froze. Lorraine's producer stood just off camera, eyes wide, unsure whether to intervene or let this play out. Lorraine herself took a slow breath. Her decades of experience kicked in. She would not let this derail the show. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her rattled. "I think our viewers do incredible things every single day," Lorraine said firmly, her voice carrying a new edge. "They raise children. They care for elderly parents. They work multiple jobs to make ends meet. That is changing the world in very real, very important ways." Harry smiled, but it was condescending. Of course. I am not saying they are not trying. I am just saying there are different levels of impact, you know what I mean?" Lorraine set down her notes. This was no longer about following a script. "Actually, I am not sure I do know what you mean. Are you suggesting that because someone is not born into privilege, their contributions matter less?" "Oh, come on, Lorraine. Harry said, leaning back in his chair as if bored by the whole exchange. Do not put words in my mouth. I am simply stating facts. Some people are born to lead, to make a difference on a grand scale. Others are born to, well, follow. That is just the natural order of things. The air itself seemed to crackle. Lorraine's eyes narrowed. She leaned forward slightly, her voice steady, but unmistakably firm. I have to say, I find that perspective quite troubling, she said. Some of the most extraordinary people I have met in my career had nothing handed to them. They earned every single thing they achieved. Harry scoffed. Actually scoffed. On live television. And that is very sweet, Lorraine. Very inspiring, I am sure. But let us not pretend that someone working in a shop somewhere is on the same level as someone like me who has a platform to actually influence policy and public opinion. Lorraine's jaw tightened. Viewers at home were already reaching for their phones, taking to social media to express their shock and outrage. The switchboard at the studio was lighting up, but none of that mattered in this moment. In this moment, it was just Lorraine and Harry, and the line had been crossed. I think what you are failing to understand, Lorraine said, her voice low and controlled, is that respect is earned, not inherited. Harry laughed again, that same hollow, arrogant laugh. Oh, please, spare me the motivational poster wisdom. You know what your problem is, Lorraine. You have been doing this cozy little morning show for so long, you actually believe you are important. You think that chatting about recipes and interviewing soap stars makes you some kind of serious journalist. The studio fell into absolute silence. This was it. The moment everything changed. Lorraine Kelly, known for her kindness, her warmth, her ability to make every guest feel comfortable, sat perfectly still. When she spoke, her voice was calm, but it carried the weight of someone who had finally had enough. I have been doing this job for more than 30 years, she said quietly. I have interviewed prime ministers and Oscar winners. Yes, but I have also talked to nurses and teachers and firefighters and single parents. And do you know what I learned? That every single person has value. Every single person has dignity. And every single person deserves respect, regardless of what family they were born into. Harry's face flushed red. Are you seriously trying to lecture me right now? Do you have any idea who you are talking to? I know exactly who I am talking to, Lorraine replied, her gaze unwavering. I am talking to someone who clearly believes that an accident of birth makes them superior to hardworking people all across this country. And I am telling you that on this show, in this studio, that kind of attitude is not welcome. Harry stood up abruptly, his microphone pack nearly pulling out of its connection. This is absolutely ridiculous. I came here as a courtesy to give you and your little show some credibility. And this is how you treat me? Lorraine remained seated, composed, every inch the professional. You came here as a guest, and you have spent the last several minutes insulting our viewers and disrespecting the people who watch this program every single morning. I think it is time for you to leave. Excuse me? Harry's voice rose. You cannot ask me to leave. Do you know what kind of damage this will do to your career? To your reputation? Lorraine stood slowly, deliberately. She looked Harry directly in the eye. My reputation is built on honesty and respect. I am not willing to compromise that for anyone, regardless of their title. Security will show you out. Harry's mouth fell open. He looked around the studio, expecting someone to intervene, to tell Lorraine she had gone too far. But the crew stood firm. The producer gave a small nod. 2 security personnel appeared at the edge of the set. This is insane, Harry sputtered. You are making a huge mistake. The only mistake, Lorraine said calmly, was thinking that being polite to you meant I would tolerate you being rude to the people who matter most to me. My viewers. Harry pointed a finger at Lorraine, his composure completely shattered now. You are a nobody, a daytime television host. You are nothing. And yet, Lorraine said, a slight smile playing at her lips. I am the one asking you to leave my show. The security guards stepped closer. Harry looked at them, then back at Lorraine, his face a mixture of shock and fury. He ripped off his microphone, the pack clattering to the floor. Fine, he snapped. Why, I did not want to be on this pathetic show anyway. You are all beneath me. Then you should have no problem leaving, Lorraine replied smoothly. Harry turned sharply and began walking toward the exit, the security guards flanking him on either side. But he could not resist one final parting shot. He stopped, turned back to face Lorraine and the cameras. You will regret this, he said, his voice dripping with venom. I will make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are. Lorraine did not flinch. She stood tall, her hands clasped in front of her, the picture of grace under pressure. I am perfectly comfortable with people knowing exactly who I am. Can you say the same? Harry's face contorted. He opened his mouth as if to say something else, then thought better of it. He spun on his heel and stormed off the set, and the security guards following closely behind. The sound of a door slamming echoed through the studio. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Lorraine stood alone on the set, the cameras still rolling, capturing every second. Then, slowly, she turned to face the camera directly. She took a breath and sat back down in her chair, smoothing her jacket with hands that did not shake. Well, she said, her voice steady, that was certainly unexpected. But I want to say something to everyone watching at home. You are not beneath anyone. Your work matters. Your life matters. You matter. And do not ever let anyone tell you otherwise. The control room erupted in applause. It started with one person, then spread through the entire crew. The sound technicians, the camera operators, the makeup artists, the producers, everyone. Then they had just witnessed something extraordinary. They had watched as their host, their kind and gentle Lorraine, had stood up to entitlement and arrogance and had not backed down for even a second. Lorraine smiled, a real smile this time, warm and genuine. Right then, she said, glancing at her notes, let us get back to what we do best, shall we? Coming up after the break, we have a wonderful chef who is going to show us how to make the perfect Sunday roast. Because that, my friends, is what really matters. The everyday moments, the simple joys, the things that bring us together. The cameras cut to commercial, and as soon as they did, Lorraine let out a long breath. Her producer rushed over, concern written all over their face. Are you okay? They asked. Lorraine nodded slowly. I am fine. Better than fine, actually. When that needed to happen. The phone lines are going mental, another producer chimed in. Social media is exploding. Everyone is on your side. Lorraine waved a hand. It is not about sides. It is about standards. We have standards here, and we are not going to lower them for anyone. Back in the dressing room area, the sound of raised voices could be heard as Harry argued with security and producers, demanding apologies, threatening legal action, insisting this was all a terrible misunderstanding. But no one was listening. The damage was done. He had shown his true colors, and there was no taking it back. On set, Lorraine checked her makeup in a small, compact mirror. Her hands were steady now. The adrenaline was beginning to fade, replaced by a calm certainty that she had done the right thing. She had spent her entire career building relationships, creating a safe space for honest conversation, and treating every single person who walked through those doors with dignity and respect. She was not about to throw that away. The floor manager gave the signal. 30 seconds until they were back on air. Lorraine closed her compact, tucked it away, and straightened in her chair. When the camera light turned red, she was smiling again, ready to continue the show as if the last segment had been nothing more than a minor hiccup. But it was not a minor hiccup. What had just happened would be replayed, analyzed, and discussed for weeks to come. Every news outlet would cover it. Every talk show would debate it. The clip would be shared millions of times across every social media platform. But in that moment, as Lorraine welcomed her next guest with genuine warmth and enthusiasm, none of that mattered. What mattered was that she had drawn a line. She had made it clear that on her show, respect was not optional. Kindness was not weakness. And no title, no matter how prestigious, gave anyone the right to look down on others. The chef came on set, nervous about following such a dramatic segment. But Lorraine put them at ease immediately, asking questions about their background, complimenting their technique, making them feel like the most important person in the world. Because to Lorraine, in that moment, they were. This was who she was. This was what she did. She lifted people up. She celebrated their achievements. She made them feel seen and heard and valued. And she would continue to do that, day after day, show after show, even no matter who tried to undermine it. As the cooking segment progressed, with Lorraine laughing genuinely at a joke about overcooked vegetables, the tension from earlier began to dissipate. The crew relaxed. The energy in the studio shifted back to its normal, comfortable rhythm. This was the show people loved. This was the Lorraine they tuned in to see every morning. But they had also seen something new today. They had seen steel beneath the warmth. They had seen a woman who knew her worth and refused to compromise her values. They had seen a host who would protect her audience with the same fierce loyalty she showed them every single day. In the green room, staff members who had witnessed the confrontation were still processing what had happened. Some were in disbelief. Others were proud. Not all of them knew they had been part of something significant. They had watched as someone stood up to power and privilege and had not backed down. "Did that really just happen?" a young production assistant whispered. "It really did," a veteran crew member replied, shaking their head in amazement. "And it was bloody brilliant." Back on set, Lorraine was now tasting the roasted potatoes the chef had prepared, her eyes widening with delight. "Oh, that is gorgeous!" she exclaimed. "You have to share this recipe with us." It was as if the earlier confrontation had never happened, but it had, and everyone knew it. The viewers knew it, the crew knew it, and somewhere, probably still arguing with anyone who would listen, Harry knew it too. The show continued for another hour. There were fashion segments and book reviews and a heartwarming interview with a local hero who had saved a child from a frozen pond. Lorraine gave each segment her full attention, her complete focus, treating every guest and every topic with the care and professionalism that had made her a household name. When the show finally wrapped, when the cameras stopped rolling and the studio lights dimmed, Lorraine sat in her chair for a moment longer. She thought about what had happened. She thought about the choice she had made, and she knew, without a shadow of doubt, that she would make the same choice again in a heartbeat. Her producer approached cautiously. "The network wants to talk to you." Lorraine smiled. "I am sure they do. Tell them I will be available in 20 minutes. I need to thank the crew first." And she did. She walked around the studio, personally thanking every single person who had been there that morning. She thanked them for their support, for their professionalism, for standing with her when it mattered most. Because that was who Lorraine Kelly was. That was who she had always been. A woman who understood that real power did not come from a title or a birthright. Real power came from integrity, from treating people with respect, from knowing your values and standing by them no matter the cost. She had built her career on those principles, and she was not about to abandon them now. As she gathered her things and prepared to face whatever conversations lay ahead with network executives and legal teams and public relations managers, Lorraine felt at peace. She had done the right thing. She had protected her show, her values, and, most importantly, her viewers. The people who woke up every morning and turned on their televisions to spend time with her deserved better than to be insulted and dismissed by someone who thought their privilege made them superior. And Lorraine had made sure they knew that she would always stand up for them. That was the real story of what happened that morning. Not the drama, not the confrontation, not even the shocking moment when a prince was asked to leave a television set. The real story was about a woman who knew her worth and refused to let anyone diminish it. A woman who understood that respect is a two-way street and that kindness should never be mistaken for weakness. In the end, it took 37 seconds for everything to change. 37 seconds for Harry to reveal his true character. And 37 seconds for Lorraine to make a choice that would define, not just that day, but her entire legacy. And in those 37 seconds, she chose her values over convenience. She chose her audience over appeasement. She chose dignity over deference. And that, more than anything else, is why what happened on the Lorraine Kelly show that morning mattered. Not because it was dramatic, or shocking, or entertaining, though it was certainly all of those things. It mattered because it showed that standing up for what is right is always worth it, even when it is difficult, especially when it is difficult. Lorraine Kelly had spent decades making people feel welcome, making them feel valued, making them feel important. And when someone tried to use her platform to do the opposite, she did not hesitate. She did not waffle. She did not apologize. She simply, calmly, firmly asked them to leave. Because some things are more important than controversy. Some things are more important than ratings. Some things are more important than access to famous guests or royal connections. Things like integrity, like respect, like standing up for people who cannot always stand up for themselves. That morning, in that studio, Lorraine Kelly reminded everyone watching that those things still matter, that they will always matter, and that no amount of privilege or prestige gives anyone the right to forget that fundamental truth.